Hello and welcome to On Point. I'm Karen Castro. Thousands of people cross the U.S.-Mexican border every year in search of the so-called American dream. Often poverty forces people out of their native countries and into the U.S., where many work as agricultural workers, factory workers, and as domestic workers. Today we're going to be talking about the dangers people face crossing the border and why they risk their lives to do it. Joining me today is Juan de los Santos, who migrated from Mexico in the early 1990s. Also, we have Christof Putzel. Christof is a correspondent for Vanguard, a documentary series airing on Current TV. He recently did a documentary called Life and Death in the Border, for which he embarked in the risky journey himself. So, my first question is to you, Juan Carlos. You're from Veracruz, Mexico. You come from a middle-class family growing up. Mm-hmm. What was it about the U.S. that attracted you? Why did you come?
Well, at that time, on the region where I live, there was a lot of people who graduated from universities and schools, and they didn't have a decent job. Like my older brother, who was an accountant, he ended up being a taxi driver. Then my next brother, he graduated as engineer, and he entered on a factory to work, but not as his field in his career. Then I decided, well, I was married at that time, and I have a small kid. Then I thought, well, I need a better opportunity to bring to my family a better way to live. Then a friend of mine came from Tijuana and told me that there was a lot of opportunities in this side, and that's why I took the decision, okay, let's try it over there for a better life.
So, Christof, you're a journalist, documentarist. I don't even know that that's a word, but why do you think this is an important story to tell?
Well, there are over 11 million undocumented people living in the United States, and they're all around us. I mean, they make up a huge part of our society. They are a big part of our workforce, and at the same time, they're almost hidden. People don't always, think about how their lives are touched every day by somebody who might be working here without papers. And so we felt it was important to document just what so many people go through every year just for the opportunity to work in this country, and how every American's life, whether you're aware of it or not, is touched by somebody who's working here, essentially working for you.
Now, you said there's 11 million undocumented people working in the U.S. That number has decreased in the last few years, though. Do you think it's because of there's more secure borders, or do you think it's because more people are dying while crossing?
Well, there's been more people. There's been less people coming into the country, and I think that is probably most likely correlated to the recession that we've been in. There's less opportunity. There's less jobs. Numbers have actually decreased by 25% of the amount of people coming in from just a couple of years ago. However, the reason we did the story now is because there are more people dying along the border trying to get into this country than ever before. And that is most likely due to the fact that their borders are more secure. They're pouring more and more money into building higher fences, putting more, the latest technology, tracking devices, night vision, thousands of other Border Patrol agents, and it's pushing migrants to much more remote and treacherous parts of the border to try to cross, causing a lot of them to die in the process.
Now, it's obviously a very dangerous journey people take. Let's take a look at a quick clip of one of the dangers you faced.
Who are the people that are raping?
Con gente que está ahí, que es el que está ahí, pues controlando la región, ya sea un embajador.
They are people who are lookouts in the mountains that give the safe passage to the coyote, and sometimes the coyote will give them a gift. Sometimes it's women, but if there are no women that are passing through for a period of time, they'll avail themselves to a man. They are people who violate the women, and they'll just as well violate the men.
That was the first time we'd heard we might be raped.
Now, it is very common for women to be raped. You said in your documentary that 100% of the women are on birth control so they won't get pregnant. What did it feel like to know that you could possibly be raped?
Well, that was one I certainly wasn't expecting. I wasn't even aware of the stat until I went there, that so many women were taking birth control expecting, that the high probability that they could be raped along the way. That blew my mind when I remember I was standing in this pharmacy where a priest was telling me that they come to him to ask permission to take the birth control because, it's a very religious society, it's not something that they would normally do. But the priest in the area would make the exception for them because he knew the reasoning behind it. As far as like the possibility of us happening to us, that wasn't a primary concern of mine, but I was surprised to hear that it happens, and that regardless of people hearing about all of these dangers, they know what the dangers are before going on the journey, but they're willing to take those risks just for the opportunity. And that's what struck me so much.
A lot of people reach out to these men called coyotes, which serve as a guide to cross people over or help them get crossed over. Did you have one when you came?
Yeah, actually, yes. I started with one because I did 2 tries. The first try, my brother's friend who used to live in the same area says that he's going to come and help us to cross. But in that first intent, we failed totally. But on the second time, we got a friend of this coyote who find another coyote and help us go through the whole thing. And actually, those coyotes were so organized. I was so amazed. They have radios, walkie-talkies, different cars, different places rented where you can go and hide. It was so planned that I didn't encounter those difficulties that I know a lot of people, friends of mine, relatives that I know, they have to suffer. I crossed in 1992, and it was relatively easily according to this time. This time is a big hassle for people trying to cross to this country.
Now, when you make the deal with the coyote, do they guarantee passage? Like, I'm going to get you to the U.S.? Because I know you were caught, so...
Yeah, most of them, they promise you. You're not going to run, you're not going to do this, you're going to do that. But at the end, you have to do whatever it takes to cross. The only thing that it was an advantage for me is because we know the coyote. It was a friend of a friend. That's the secure part. But for a lot of people, they get out of the plane, or they get out of the bus, or they get out of the train, and they found a coyote right there. They don't know what they are risking for because they don't know them. You don't know if for sure you're going to cross. A lot of stories you heard that the same coyotes, they just trick you, and they take away your money, and they leave you stranded over there in the middle of the desert.
Now, Christof, because of the nature of what you were doing, how did you get, or how did you become in contact with a coyote?
We went to this town called Altar, which is a town that's basically the sole business and economy of this town is based on getting people across the border, and there are coyotes everywhere. However, nobody wanted to take us. When we showed up, it was just trouble. There's 2 white guys, they're journalists, they have cameras, they want to film it. Oh my God, what is this about? And so we eventually but what they were scared most of was the fact that in fact, the majority of the operations now of people getting across is all controlled by the cartel, the mafia. And where before it used to be a kind of mom and pop shops, family connections. Now nobody's crossing regions of this border without the mafia getting their cut. There's too much money at stake. It's too much of an organized business. And like Juan Carlos was saying, it's such a organization. Like it's like a corporate, everything. It's so well organized. Of how they get people across, and so there was no sneaking across without the mafia's permission, and so we had to negotiate with them, and then they eventually gave us permission once we finally told the coyotes, and once they knew that we'd had the permission that we were okay, then they were more open to the idea.